100 meters per second, that's the speed of a high-speed train. 1 kilometer per second, that's the speed of a bullet. 10 kilometers per second, that's the speed humanity needs to break free from Earth. But what if we go 100 times faster than that? Today, we're counting down the top 10 fastest vehicles on the planet. On this list, China's high-speed rail can only land at the very bottom. And our number one pick? It can circle the Earth 1.5 times in a single second. Number 10. China's CRH 380A/Fuxing series. This is the only vehicle on our list that travels on the ground via wheel rail contact. It has a maximum operating speed of 350 kilometers per hour and hit a record test speed of 486.1 kilometers per hour. It covers the 1,318 kilometers journey from Beijing to Shanghai in just 4 hours and 18 minutes. For comparison, the same trip takes 12 hours by car and 15 hours on a standard train. That means it's moving nearly 100 meters every second. Yet hundreds of passengers can smoothly drink tea, work, and rest inside the carriages. The physical limit of wheel rail technology sits at around 600 kilometers per hour. Beyond this speed, 80% of energy is consumed fighting air resistance, making this train the ultimate form of ground transportation. The Fuxing series is equipped with the Falcon traction motors, each delivering 650 kilowatts of power, giving the entire train a total power output of 9,600 kilowatts, equivalent to 13 Ferrari sports cars running at full throttle all at once. Even so, in the realm of absolute speed, it can only take the last spot on our list. Number 9. Japan's L0 series superconducting maglev train. The undisputed speed king of ground transportation, which hit a record 603 kilometers per hour on the Yamanashi Prefecture test track in 2015. This wheelless train uses superconducting magnets operating at an ultra-low temperature of minus 269 degrees Celsius to achieve zero electrical resistance, generating an extremely powerful magnetic field that levitates the train 10 centimeters above the track, completely eliminating friction resistance. Japan plans to use this technology to build the Chua Shinkansen line, connecting Tokyo and Osaka. The 286 kilometers journey will take just 67 minutes, with a line scheduled to open in 2027. However, 603 kilometers per hour is close to the physical ceiling of ground transportation within the atmosphere. To go any faster, you have to leave the ground behind. Number 8. The Concorde Supersonic airliner. The only supersonic passenger aircraft ever put into full commercial operation in human history, with a top speed of 2,179 kilometers per hour, or 2.04 times the speed of sound. It cut the New York to London route down to just 3 hours and 15 minutes, saving nearly 4 hours compared to standard commercial airliners. Its sleek delta wing design wasn't just for looks. It was an aerodynamic necessity for supersonic flight. When an aircraft breaks the sound barrier, traditional wings will stall, but the delta wing can ride the shock wave beneath it to generate lift. But the Concorde burned through 25,000 liters of fuel per hour, twice that of a Boeing 747, and produced takeoff noise of up to 120 decibels. Following the Air France crash in 2000 and its retirement in 2003, this speed monster ultimately fell victim to economics and environmental regulations, becoming a legend confined to museums. Number 7. SpaceX Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets. These are reusable space launch vehicles, with the first stage reaching speeds of around 8,000 kilometers per hour at separation, and the second stage hitting orbital velocity of 27,000 kilometers per hour, otherwise known as the first cosmic velocity. Standing 70 meters tall and weighing 549 tons at liftoff, they generate 760 tons of thrust, equivalent to the full power output of 20 Boeing 747 airliner engines firing at once. Its 9 Merlin engines burn through 140 kilograms of kerosene and liquid oxygen every second. 2.5 minutes after liftoff, the first stage separates, and the second stage's vacuum-optimized engine ignites, pushing satellites or spacecraft into orbit around the Earth. But the revolution of the Falcon series isn't its speed, its reusability. In 2015, it achieved the first vertical landing of an orbital rocket first stage, slashing tens of millions of dollars in manufacturing costs down to just the price of fuel. The Falcon Heavy, meanwhile, can lift 64 tons of cargo into low Earth orbit, with 3 first-stage boosters strapped together and 27 engines roaring in unison. It's the workhorse of humanity's space age. Number 6. NASA's X-15 experimental aircraft. The absolute speed record holder for a crewed, piloted aircraft. On October 3, 1967, pilot William J. Knight flew it to a record speed of 7,274 kilometers per hour. That's 6.72 times the speed of sound. This wasn't a plane that took off from the ground. It was carried to an altitude of 13,700 meters by a B-52 bomber and released mid-air before igniting its rocket engine. In just 85 to 120 seconds of burn time, the X-15 accelerated from subsonic speeds to hypersonic flight, with the surface of the fuselage reaching temperatures of 650 degrees Celsius, requiring it to be built from a nickel-chromium alloy. At an altitude of 108 kilometers, it crossed the Kármán line and entered outer space, earning its pilot's official astronaut status. At 6 times the speed of sound, its aerodynamic control surfaces became completely ineffective, so it had to rely on reaction control rockets to adjust its attitude. It didn't even have landing gear for touchdown. It used steel skids to slide for kilometers across a dry lake bed to come to a stop. Across 199 flights, it crossed the boundary of space 13 times, standing as the pinnacle of humanity, pushing the limits of speed with our own flesh and blood. Number 5. NASA's X-43, a hypersonic experimental aircraft. The speed king of air-breathing aircraft, which hit 11,260 kilometers per hour, 9.6 times the speed of sound, in 2004. It proved the viability of the Scramjet engine, an engine with no moving parts that uses the aircraft's extreme forward speed to compress air directly into the combustion chamber, where it mixes with hydrogen and ignites. The entire aircraft itself is essentially a flying engine. The X-43A is 3.6 meters long and weighs 1.4 tons. It was accelerated to 3.5 times the speed of sound by a Pegasus rocket before separation, at which point its Scramjet engine ignited for 11 seconds, flying at 3 kilometers per second at an altitude of 35,000 meters. Those 11 seconds opened the door to hypersonic flight for humanity. In the future, a trip from Beijing to New York could take just 2 hours, and in the military realm, it means unstoppable global strike capability. From the turbojet to the scramjet, humanity completed this evolution of speed in 60 years. Number 4. New Horizons Deep Space Probe. The speed demon that broke free from Earth's gravitational pull. When it launched in 2006, it already reached a speed of 58,536 kilometers per hour and used a Jupiter gravity assist to accelerate even further, making it the fastest probe ever launched from Earth. Its target was Pluto, 4.8 billion kilometers away, a journey it completed in just 9 years, while light takes 4.5 hours to cover the same distance. During its flyby in 2015, it sent back the famous photo of Pluto's heart-shaped plane, with the signal taking 4.5 hours to reach Earth. But its mission didn't end there. In 2019, it visited Arrokoth, the most distant object ever explored by humanity, 6.6 billion kilometers from Earth. Right now, it's flying toward the edge of the solar system at 500 million kilometers per year, and is expected to enter interstellar space in the 2030s, becoming only the 3rd human-made object to leave the solar system. Number 3. Apollo 10. The pinnacle of crewed speed. On May 26, 1969, during its return to Earth, it reached a speed of 39,897 kilometers per hour. This is the speed limit endured by 3 astronauts, Thomas Stafford, John Young, and Eugene Cernan, with their own bodies. As a full dress rehearsal for the Apollo 11 moon landing, they descended to just 15.6 kilometers above the lunar surface to test the lunar module systems, but were not permitted to actually land. as NASA feared the astronauts might be tempted to land on the moon ahead of schedule. On re-entry, the command module slammed into Earth's atmosphere at 11 kilometers per second, with its heat shield withstanding temperatures of 2,760 degrees Celsius. This record has stood unbroken for 55 years, for the simple reason that humanity has never traveled that far from home again. Number 2. Helios 2 probe. On April 17, 1976, it set a record speed of 252,792 kilometers per hour, 70 kilometers per second, or 0.023% the speed of light. A joint mission between West Germany and NASA to study the solar wind and cosmic rays. It had an elliptical orbit with a perihelion of just 43 million kilometers from the Sun, closer than the planet Mercury. The Sun's gravity accelerated it to 2.4 times the orbital speed of the Earth. At this speed, it could travel from the Earth to the Moon in just 1.5 hours and reach the Sun in only 24 days. For comparison, the Parker Solar Probe's current speed is roughly half of Helios 2's record. Helios 2 has long since ceased operations, but its orbit will remain for millions of years, a monument to humanity's quest for speed. Number 1. Parker Solar Probe. The fastest object ever created by humanity. During its 21st close approach to the Sun on December 24, 2024, it reached a top speed of 692,018 kilometers per hour, 192 kilometers per second, or 0.064% the speed of light. It can circle the Earth 17 times in a single hour and cover 11,500 kilometers in just 1 minute. On its mission to touch the Sun, it used Venus gravity assist to adjust its orbit 24 times over 7 years, shrinking its perihelion from 150 million kilometers to just 6.1 million kilometers, less than 4% of the distance between the Earth and the Sun. Its 11.4 centimeter thick carbon composite heat shield withstands temperatures of 1,400 degrees Celsius, while the backside remains at room temperature, a miracle of modern material science. In 2021, it became the first probe to cross the Alphane critical surface and enter the Sun's corona, the birthplace of the solar wind. Right now, it's still accelerating. It's expected to approach within 6 million kilometers of the Sun's surface in 2025, with its speed potentially exceeding 200 kilometers per second. From steel behemoths flying just above the ground to fiery specters chasing a star. This is humanity's eternal hunger to push the very limits of speed. That wraps up our list of the top 10 fastest vehicles in the world. From ground-hugging flight to touching the stars. From wheel-rail friction to gravitational acceleration. Behind every leap in speed lies the ultimate challenge of engineering and technology. Which one impressed you the most? Let me know in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. See you next time.